G'day, how you doing? I don't know if you can see Pace just there. He's got the cone of shame on. He tangled with a boar, a wild boar, 131 pounder boar. Gutted that was. We got it. Anyway, sorry there's been not a lot of stuff on public recently. I have been in the bush pretty much the last couple of months doing a lot of hunting. And we've had some success and a few disasters. You'll be alright. You alright, mate? Right, let's kick this one in the guts. If you found yourself in a situation, say you're driving along your car in the middle of butt-fuck nowhere and your car goes over a cliff and you go plunging down and you're in a gully, no cell phone range, what would you do? How would you survive? Middle of winter, freezing cold. Or you're in a plane crash, a small plane, you're going somewhere and you crash and everybody gets killed and you survive. How are you going to survive? Or you're out tramping and you get completely lost from your party, or you're by yourself, you lose your pack and suddenly you're just with yourself. Maybe you got a knife on the hip, maybe you haven't, but you're in an environment where you're suddenly challenged and you could possibly die with hypothermia or a number of things. There's a lot of programs that we see and videos we see and stories, and I call them stories, which portray these guys going and surviving. My daughter, she used to love Bear Grylls. She grew up watching Bear Grylls. She had a Bear Grylls knife, and this day and age, she's now out in the wild most of the time. She hunts. Probably right now she's in a snow cave somewhere down the Southern Alps, or who knows, or going down a river on a kayak or a raft. She loves the outdoors. But a lot of what has been portrayed in these programs, and Bear Grylls has a lot of skills, don't get me wrong, but you know for a fact there's a camera crew right there beside him, so he's not really alone. And you kind of scratch your head, particularly for someone like in New Zealand or Australia for that matter, or any country that understands what it means to survive in the bush. You might be a professional possum trapper that traps possums. If you're a trapper, well, you know what it's like to be in the scrub for days on end. If you're a culling goats for Department of Conservation or a private sector, or you've been a deer culler at some stage, or anybody that's in the bush long term, you understand that a lot of these programs are kind of like, well, they're making a story. And I know about making stories. Sometimes when I've created a hunting video, I've had to put bits in from other hunts to match the story up, and that's the reality of creating stories sometimes. But on the whole, if you're self-filming, and a lot of hunters do in New Zealand, then you can pretty much, what you see is what you get. These huge productions, well, I reckon the guys are going back to the hotel at night and munching on pizza, looking at the roll going, yeah, that works, because they're creating a story and that's cool and they're fun to watch. The thing that they mostly drive in these survival programs, which always makes me scratch my head a bit and say, well, that's not right, is they talk about got to get a food source. No, you can go days without food and you're going to live, you'll be alright. If you're someone who's got a high sugar, high carb diet, you're going to struggle, because your body needs to have that sugar buzz all the time. If you're someone that's on a carnivore diet or a keto diet, then your body's already burning fat for fuel, and you'll go for days without even getting a headache or having any sugar low or any hunger. You'll be sweet as, bro. But what you do need is you need shelter from the elements, whether it's scorching hot, or it's wind, or it's freezing cold, or it's rain. You've got to have some protection from the elements. If it's freezing cold, you've got to get yourself off the ground. And you've got to have rest also. You can go a lot longer without food than you can go without sleep. You try doing stuff 3 days without sleep, and watch how your brain starts to function then, or misfunction. The old saying goes, tired soldiers make mistakes. You'll make a load of mistakes if you haven't had sleep. And we know what it's like even when you're just tired and stressed out. So getting rest and getting away from the environment that's harsh, that can kill you, is the most important thing, and also hydrating yourself. Now people say, well, the one thing I'd like to have in the bush would be a knife. Well, it's a handy tool to have for all sorts of things and all sorts of reasons, but I can make a knife, or something that resembles a knife, not a knife like this, because it's a bloody nice knife, out of a couple of river rocks, just by splitting them the right way. I've got a sharp edge, I can cut flax with it, I can cut wood with it, I can even skin an animal with it, and I'm going to show you that in the future. If you're in a freezing cold environment, then you're going to need something to keep you warm. If you don't have enough clothes, and often people that do get hypothermia are underprepared, particularly tourists that come to New Zealand and find themselves well underprepared for our alpine, because it gets bloody very cold up there. And once you get wet and you combine that with wind, you die very quickly. Hypothermia will take you in hours. You'll shut down very quick. As someone who's had hypothermia, I know exactly what it feels like. You have this intense, strong urge to go to sleep. And if you know about hypothermia, if you go to sleep, you're never going to wake up. That's going to be your last sleep ever. The body really wants to close down, and you've got to fight like hell, and most of the time you can't. Eventually you give into it, and you park up, and you go to sleep, and you die. So recognising the signs of early hypothermia is really important, but also knowing how to counter them and get your body warm before you get to that critical stage. And it's not easy. The most experienced survivalist will struggle to make fire in a pouring down rain situation, or everything's blanketed in water and he's got no matches. It can be done, and in the future I'm going to show you how it can be done. But firstly, even in an environment where it's nice and dry, it takes a huge amount of physical energy. If you want to start rubbing your sticks together or using your bow, however you're doing it, it takes a lot of energy. I implore you to try it at home. Go and find a bit of a hardwood and a softwood and do your old, or your one on the piece of wood where you're running it down. I know you get a piece of wood like this and another piece, and you're doing this whole thing, for ages and ages. Gonna take you a load of energy. It's doable, but it's questionable how much energy you actually use to what it produces. Sometimes it can take half an hour if you don't know what you're doing. So, fire, it's a necessity, but first and foremost is your shelter. So then comes your food. Once you've got your shelter, once you've got your fire, once you've got your base where you plan to survive until help can come, and it could be days, could even be weeks, could even be months. It's happened. You've got your shelter, got your fire, got your water, then you look for your food. Now on the note of water, a knife. People say this is what I'd take into the bush with me. Yes. Before I take that, I'll take a bowl to keep water in. A bowl, that's right, you heard me. I'll take a bowl over a knife. As I said earlier, I can make a knife. Making a bowl is difficult. I know how to make a bowl, but I need fire and I need clay, and it's going to take time. A knife I can make like that pretty quick if I know what I'm doing, particularly if I can find the right rocks. So all these things I'm talking about, it's easier to sit here in a nice sunny environment and talk about them where I've got food in my belly, where I've got warm clothes on, where I've got the sun on my skin and I've got nothing threatening me. But to really show you and lead you through each point will take a lot more work than this talk. And it's not just something you can make in a video by going into the environment and filming what you're doing, of which I am going to do. Because each particular thing needs to be addressed. How to make a knife, how to build a shelter, how to create a bowl to hold water, how to create fire, how to create a trap that will catch an animal, how to make a fishing line from nothing that will catch an eel that you can eat, how to catch a wild pig or a goat or a deer and anything, a possum that's going to sustain you, how to make a snare that will catch an animal. All those things are videos in themselves and they all take a lot of work. Putting myself in a situation in the environment where I really am trying to survive is something I'd have to think twice about making, because first of all I don't want to put the rescue services out of their way when they could be saving someone who's generally got themselves in a bad situation through no fault of their own. By putting myself into, say, an alpine situation where I'm sleeping in a snow cave or I'm in a gully somewhere, I would have to be make sure I have a backup for that. I would not go anywhere, regardless, and I don't, without a personal rescue beacon, or personal locator beacon at least. They are really important, and on that note, you should always carry one. They take the search out of search and rescue, and they will save your life, so make sure you got one. I know a lot of hunters that don't, but it only takes one time. Break a leg down a gully where there's no cell phone reception, and you'll die if you can't get out. You'll stay down there until you eventually become dehydrated, or the environment kills you with hypothermia, one thing or another, and it'll be a slow, uncomfortable death. When all you can do is take it out of your pocket and push a couple of buttons and wait for the helicopter. Having said that, it's not always that easy for the choppers to get in to find you either, and it still might even mean a day or two from the time you press the button until you get rescued. But they are something you really need to carry. They're an insurance that you hope you never have to use, but as I said, they take the search out of search and rescue. You just get rescued. This video has just been an introduction to what's going to be coming up later. I am going to be doing it. I'm going to be doing a number of videos. One is a type of survival, but not full survival, because let's face it, I'll be taking either a sleeping bag or a knife or a torch or something into the bush, because I'm not going to put services under that strain and put myself at risk. But I will go through the scenarios of what would be needed if I didn't have those things. I've been thinking about the idea of going in with just a spear and a sleeping bag, possibly a torch and no fire, and seeing how long I can survive with that. Because our ancestors pretty much did a lot of their hunting with spears, and I've got a very good spear that my mate Ross Johnson, the knife maker, made. That's a thought. Or I may go in with a knife, just a knife like this one here. In fact, probably this would be the knife because it's heavy enough to cut wood, and it's also good for sticking a pig and gutting an animal and a number of things, and one dog, and seeing how we go with that. Stay posted. If you want to see my hunting stuff that hasn't been posted recently, like my up-to-date stuff, and I've got a lot of stuff coming. I've caught 4 or 5 boars in the last 10 days with the dogs. Jump on my Patreon for the price of less than shouting me a mince pie or a pack of potato chips. Not that I eat potato chips. Or buy me a beer. You get a month of my personal videos talking to you like this, with information and also showcasing what I'm doing, and videos, hunting videos. The last one's a full overnight catch and cook, a couple of boars down. It's up now currently. So think about joining that, and it would contribute to the work I'm doing. We've all got to make a living. That was it today. You can tell I'm on a flight path. Little Cessna. Imagine getting around in one of those, going on your first joyride, and suddenly he goes down and he crashes, he dies, and you survive in the plane in the middle of nowhere. How would you survive? Well, one thing of course would be you'd probably have a cockpit of an aircraft to use as a place to keep out of to have a shelter to keep out of the environment, so that would be something to consider. But really, would you survive? So yeah, I'll be doing those videos coming up in the future. Be good, can't be good. Be careful, and good luck on your own hunting, gathering, foraging, however you're doing, spearing it, bowing it with a compound bow or a long bow, shooting it, dogging it, knifing it, trapping it, foraging for it, netting it, however you're doing it, or even just going to the supermarket and buying it. I hope it's going well for you. See you later. Little Pace over there, he's like trying to get something that's in the wood and he can't because he's got the cone of shame on. You good boy, eh? You good boy, Pace? Oh, he's a good boy, enjoying that sun on his wound. Getting vitamin D, that'll heal it.